I'm Ryan Kwon. I'm here from Quantcast. Not sure if a lot of you guys are familiar with Quantcast at all, but we have our high-performance advertising platform that allows brands like yourself to easily run across different various channels on the open web. So if there's any interest afterwards, feel free to come find me and we can chat more about that. But enough about myself, and I'll pass things off to Dan to kind of talk a little bit more about himself and Riot Games.
Hey everybody, ex-agency guy for many years. Found myself in tech, and then almost a decade ago found myself at Google arguing with Riot Games about paid media, in which they wouldn't listen to a single word I said about the importance of it, and in fact told me I was wrong, that they had built their entire community without any paid media, and here I am 10 years later, spending money on paid media. I've been at Riot for a decade. I've actually worked in kind of every part of Riot. I started when we were about 1,000 people, and now we're 5,000 people. We operate a couple of major games that operate in 200 countries. One of them is League of Legends, which most people have probably heard in some form. Maybe your brother played it, maybe you played it in college. We made a TV show called Arcane that's on Netflix right now. And then our other game that most people know is called Valorant. And then we're going to play a video. I thought it would be helpful if we're going to talk about games and music, if you actually saw some of the output of what we think of when we do games and music. So we're going to play that video, then we'll get into it. Hopefully I've got some energy going a little bit. You probably saw in there Porter Robinson, Little Nas X, Imagine Dragons, our own K-pop group, which is made up of a bunch of K-pop superstars called KDA. And the most important thing about that video I want to show you guys was that 86% of the assets my team makes that have music are our highest performing ones. So they're music videos or they're cut downs of different videos we do with the music, and they end up getting a lot of people who are kind of coming from the world of I'm interested in games or anime or music, and they watch the music video even if they don't know our games. And so it's been a huge investment for us, but also it's paid off because there's a large overlap between people that love video games and people that love music.
Yeah, that was my first time ever seeing that video, and it brought so many memories because I grew up playing the games and very familiar with the company. But anyways, getting back on to the topic of investing in music and art to build bright worlds. The first question I have for you is, Riot Games has successfully bridged the gap between gaming, music, and art. So what drives your decision to invest in these cultural pillars, and how do they help shape Riot's bright world?
Sure. For us, we operate in over 200 countries, and two of the biggest ones for us are China and Korea. So music happens to be a universal language, right? You might not speak English, or you might not speak Korean, or you might not speak Mandarin, but music can tie people together. So when we have some of our events, or when we do things in an in-game event, finding a cultural breakthrough with an artist collaboration, maybe we have Jackson Wang from China working with a US artist, we start seeing this kind of like sharing possibilities of what one person was interested in, to bring them in. So I know why Riot told me back 10 years ago I didn't do paid media. They were using things like this, and it was getting people to bring in their friend to play the game. Oh, dude, check out this music video. It's so hype. Obviously now things are different. Everybody plays games, so it's gotten much more competitive than it used to, but we use it in a very authentic way. I guess the best way to sum it up for you, Ryan, is we use music as an extension of the IP. And I think this is very important. If I leave anybody with anything, I see a lot of brands partner with cool, hot artists. I think it's very different when you think it through from the perspective of how can this artist and our IP come together. It definitely takes more time. I won't say it takes more money. It just takes time getting through. What artist even makes sense? I can get Post Malone if I want to. I have the budget. Post Malone doesn't play League of Legends. Doesn't make sense for me. He plays Call of Duty and other things. I'll let another group work with him. I'll find the artists that actually either really care about gaming or really care about Porter Robinson in particular. He cares about anime, and we have a cosmetic line in one of our games. It's all animation based. So for him, he was inspired by it to write an original song, and then that ended up being a number one hit in China. For him, it got him an audience in a country that he's not actually spending a lot of time touring in.
Yeah, that's really interesting there. And on that same topic, diving into these different cultural pillars and stuff, what metrics or signals do you use to gauge the success of these initiatives that combine gaming with music and art?
The metric question, the one I get asked by the founder all the time. It depends. So the interesting thing about video games today, the biggest ones, Fortnite, Call of Duty, League of Legends, we don't make money on anything but selling cosmetics. So the actual pitch, and it's hilarious, the pitch the founders made years ago was they went to these VCs and said, we need millions of dollars to run servers for a game that we're going to give away. And they said, well, how are you going to make money? And they said, well, we're going to sell these outfits. And so they said, most VCs picked them out of the room saying, you're going to sell your game to have 14-year-old boys play dress-up doll? Well, billions and billions and billions of dollars later, I'd say that they were right. Fortnite, all these games have continued to do this, and it's how they literally make all their money. For us, I'll make cosmetics based off of a music band. The game team has then a reason to partner with me as a marketing guy because there's incentive to put something in the game that we can literally measure. The pop band, the KDA band you saw there, the Korean pop band, there was 5 cosmetics made when that music video came out. They became the highest selling skin line for us at the time ever, to the tune of like hundreds of millions of dollars. That's a benefit to them. I can then correlate that to how many players came and engaged at that time. The other metrics are typical ones. Because we're working with artists and labels, it is DSP tracking, it is YouTube views, it is, honestly, with Imagine Dragons, which we just partnered with this past month, it was knowing 9 months ago when they were going to announce their new lead singer, when they were announcing their album, and then working with their team to figure out how to use our channels to then back into their channels. And so I have to give up a little bit sometimes, which is I need it to launch on a Tuesday and they need it to launch on a Friday usually, and that's not perfect for me or them. We seem to find a way to make it work lately, and for Imagine Dragons, they got 4.5 million people watching live at current one track for them. That's bigger than any single concert they can do, right? And I paid $1.2 million for that. That was track, that was the marketing with them, and that was their live performance. So I get a lot of people that want to watch that, and they got arguably the largest streaming viewership at a single track. So I measure things that way. Sometimes it's also, as the kids on my team say, a vibe. I try to get vibe written out of the briefs, but every single day I'm still seeing one. I'm like, yeah, this is going to be a great vibe. And I'm like, cool, I can't take vibe back to the president of the company. But sometimes there will be something that just makes sense and will feel right about it. And it's more about, like, really cool artist. Let's see what happens,
Awesome. Yeah, and I know you touched earlier upon some collaborations you guys do with like Porter Robinson, etc. Just to kind of dive a little bit deeper, because obviously Riot Games has collaborated with many prominent artists and musicians to create these experiences. So what do you look for in a creative partner, and how do you ensure these collaborations align with the brand's core values?
We got really lucky with the first one. So Imagine Dragons years ago called us and said they were playing our game incessantly on a tour bus and being late to the stage because they were playing. Our game was like 45 minutes. So they actually wrote one of their massive songs based off League of Legends and then called us and said, we'd like to work with you. Now that's the ideal scenario. The reality now that gaming and music has become such a connected tissue, it is really trying to find some value that we both see, whether it is somebody who's a fan of games or a fan of gaming culture, or an artist that we think is going to break through. So last year, New Jeans, got really, really lucky with that one. New Jeans, before they kind of blew up, had talked to our head of music about being interested in finding a way to partner because they knew we did a live show in Korea. It ended up being they were open to having our music team. We have an in-house music team, which is also rare for a video game company to have composers and writers of actual tracks. But they let us write a song for them that fit culturally with our message. It feels a little different for New Jeans, but they were excited to kind of like get a different audience. And so the alignment of having an event in Korea, having a K-pop group that is becoming the next big thing in Korea, and having them work with us on a collaborative track all worked out. Lil Nas X, who I know is a Sony artist, so I'll be careful. We started from a place of like, let's try a younger artist, because our game, League of Legends, is 15 years old, and the average player looks like me, so it was like, let's find a different artist. Lil Nas X's team was super excited, but he was like, I don't want to write a track with you. I have this track. And so we tried it, and I'll be real with you all. The track, as the other co-founders told me in my review, was a banging pop track and a really bad esports anthem. And so it was a great learning of, we got the song before it released. We were on the hype train of Lil Nas X. Funny aside, I convinced everybody that we'd let him use his social media without any governance. And in our game, there's 5 roles. One of them is called the top, one of them is called the bottom. I'll let you put those 2 together. He made a lot of tweets about them, but he didn't mean our game. And a lot of people at Riot didn't get it, but I was laughing the whole time. But it was also allowing artists like that to talk to the audience. We made him president for 3 weeks. We made him president of the game, made these kind of commercials with his team, and then I tried to kind of course correct the fact that I knew the track was not going to be beloved, but I knew that the artist and the connection he had to like gaming and culture would make sense. And so we tried those kinds of things and see how it works. And it's also just getting a really good sense of who they are. With the Magic Dragons, Mike Shinoda, one of the founders of Magic Dragons, is friends with one of the co-founders, and he's actually been trying to work this for 7 years. He started working on a track for Arcane, our TV show on Netflix, and it was like this slow ballad, and then he's like, hey, I made this other version of it, and it was an amazingly hard, like, rock track called Heavy as the Crown. And he's like, by the way, we have a new lead singer, what if we debuted it at your World Finals? And it was like, okay, so he's going to have a track come out of the TV show the week before we have our World Finals in London, which gets about 20,000 people live, and then it gets like 4.5 million to 5 million concurrents, and then the next couple of weeks it'll get like 20 to 70 more million. So it was like a huge opportunity to have all of this Linkin Park thing happen, but I'm not going to lie to all of you. 4 people in the room, all 40 plus, were like, Linkin Park fucking rocks, and I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. All of us just said Linkin Park rocks, and I'm really worried about that. We should go talk to some people that are not looking like us. And we did, and they kind of looked at us and they were like, oh, I liked Linkin Park when I was this age, but it's kind of cool they're coming back. And so the youth at my office told me it was cool.
Nice. And then just kind of changing speeds here. When it comes to these cultural elements, what challenges have you faced when merging gaming with cultural elements like music and art, and how have you overcome them?
Geopolitical issues, which is probably not on everybody's bingo card today, but running a game in China and Korea actually comes with complications where the Chinese government does not typically want a Korean K-pop group on a national stage. And so we actually rewrote a second track by the K-pop group and put a Chinese artist in it so that we could have a Chinese Mandarin-speaking artist inside of a K-pop track, and therefore appealed to the challenge we had at hand, which is we already spent all the money when we were already guaranteed in the venue, and we needed to be showing up. So that's one. And then, in this sometimes very sad world, having a gay black artist like Lil Nas X, the challenge of getting every region I work in to support it. So I called all of them, and I just got real talk from all of them. Like, Korea was like, hey, very Catholic society, half the people here are not going to be cool with this. The other half are cool with this, so do your thing. But, like, we're working in MENA now, right? And they were like, real talk, we're not going to promote this during that period of time. We cannot. And so I went to the co-founder and just said, hey, I think we're going to have a few regions that do not promote the track or the video, but I don't think that that is a reason to stop it, because culturally Riot, the company, is very much progressive in that way. And so we push forward with it, but I think that's the challenge. The other challenge is trying to find a music artist that's relevant to 200 countries at a given time that isn't, Coldplay or Taylor Swift. It's like, I'm not getting either of those artists to be in a thing. They might not make any sense. So it's trying to find the artists that we think we can break through at the right places, or super doubling down on a region and cultural reasons for being. But I'd say that's the number one I've dealt with lately is we're going to China next year for another project. And so now it's the same thing, but probably like 5x lately. And so we're actually working through which artists we're going to work with now, because we've already got a list of all the no's.
Perfect. And then obviously gaming is becoming a cornerstone of modern culture nowadays. So how do you stay ahead of the trends to ensure Riot Games' brand remains relevant and influential?
Kind of don't do things in a normal way. So like my friends down the street at Activision just had this giant campaign for Call of Duty, right? It's like they put this character in everything. He was on Fox Sports and all these things. Most of the people that play our game are like college kids or like somebody tells them to come in. So I'm staying on the trend of who are they watching on Twitch, who are they watching on Instagram, who are they listening to? And again, let's get back to the music thing. I'm trying to find ways to stay on top of mainly what's happening in music because I don't do a lot of big paid spending on ads. I do a lot of paid media on boosting the music that we make or boosting the big video we make for the year to just keep it going. And so I try to come to things like this. I try to watch what everyone else in the industry is doing. I try to learn from a lot of music acts. I try to think through basically not average video game marketing because I'm not selling $60 box, and that's the biggest challenge. Like I don't have the same return that those guys are looking for. I'm trying to get you to try a free-to-play, extremely hard game that you have to spend a lot of time learning. And why would you spend that much time? Hopefully because you found friends or you found a reason to do it. But I found that doing big paid media, which I did a giant campaign years ago and got in huge trouble for because the CPM was $48 and it didn't convert. I learned that I don't have an awareness problem with the game. I have a do you want to play this damn game and spend time getting yelled at problem. And the answer to most North American kids for most of my games was the answer is no. And so I was like, let's stop spending a bunch of money in North America on marketing this game. So now I'm looking at which regions to do it in. Things of that nature.
Interesting. I don't know how much time we have as well, but want to stay ahead of. Okay, perfect. Obviously, Riot has a large community as a whole, and I know Riot Games has a reputation for prioritizing its community. So, how does player feedback and community engagement influence your approach to designing art and music into your games?
So our founders believe in Reddit, which is actually less than 1% of our entire population of gamers. But I wake up every morning or every other morning to a text with a post from Reddit that says, fix this. Ultimately, we listen to it a lot. And I think over the years of having feedback on marketing I've done or initiatives I wanted to do, it's like I listen to it all. Sometimes I don't do a damn thing about it. But I do think it's important to hear from those vocal critics, and so like we made an anthem for one of our games that like just took a totally different style, and it was a little more of a vibe than a hard rock anthem or something. And we got a lot of feedback, which was this is not good. In fact, a lot of rankings of tiers that ended up at the bottom. It gave me the opportunity to go back and brief the music team on like, hey, I think League of Legends is starting to look like this. I think we should be careful when we go to these artists. Because I think we've set this precedent that they're looking for that in some way, shape, or form. Valorant, which is actually our marketing line for Valorant inside Riot, is unapologetically global. It's based off of 12 characters that are all from different regions of the world, and we actually work with like our Filipino team to make a Filipino character. It also opens up music in a totally different world, which is like, what does a Filipino listen to? What does a Brazilian listen to? And so it's allowed me in that side to be a lot more authentic to a more younger culture, a newer culture, because the demographic of the game is smaller, but also I have all these actual strategic reasons to play with like different regional music because those characters that are representing each of these regions are actually very important. It's just League in particular being an older game, we kind of established like this style. And so I've been trying to figure out how to listen to them, but also push them. Linkin Park was like a return to form, but also a potential double-edged sword of like, are we getting into dad rock 20-year-old band territory? And the answer after 2 weeks ago was no. But it's because like the track's done really well, and they have a female lead singer, and there's a lot of reasons why it made sense. But we're always thinking about it. And then there's a huge, I forget if this is a question you're looking into this one or not, but in time's essence, I'll say that we have a huge LGBTQ plus population in gaming. It's actually a large percentage of gamers find themselves there. Therefore, we're also looking at what artists represent those feelings and those perceptions, and can we find ways to use music, and or you asked me about art and game. Some of the artists making the characters in game are coming from those worlds. We put a non-binary character in Valorant recently, and we have kind of like an openly gay cinematic of two characters in League of Legends that we decided after years we're actually lovers, and we're exploring those kinds of things, often through music as well, because it gives kind of this reason for that to exist outside of a hardcore game where you kill each other.
Also, and I'm sure everyone in the room here is wondering as well, the final question here. What's next for Riot Games in harmonizing gaming with culture? Are there any new mediums or creative directions you're excited to explore?
The don't ask the AI question by saying AI question. No, it's interesting. I get asked this question a lot. Why didn't you guys do like a VR thing or whatever? And it's like, the scale of a game that operates at 180 million players is that it has to work on like computers that are 12 years old. I'll tell you one aside. Tesla called years ago and asked us to put one of our games in Teslas, and I thought it was the coolest thing. And I went to the president and I was like, we can get our game in Teslas. And he looks at me and he goes, this is like 7 years ago. How many Teslas in the world? And I'm like, let's say 1 million. And he goes, and how many people that play play games in Teslas are there? He's like, let's just say on the best case you got 1/3. And I'm like, all right, there's like 300,000. He's like, you want a development team, and an art team, and a tech team to make a game for 300,000 people? He's like, get the fuck out of my office. So for us, we have to think about scale. And when I think about things, I also have to think about how it shows up to players. So the Starburst example we saw from AI is really unique. But I'd have to be careful because it's generating art that doesn't exist in our game, drafting off art that exists in our game. So the worst case scenario for me is it shows something that people want that I'm not going to get buy-in to make. And then the other thing, and we just had this quote from our founder yesterday defending our $250 million budget for a TV series, which is real. It's the one on Netflix right now. Don't hire an insanely talented French animation company because they cost a fuck ton of money. But they're really great, and they take a lot of time, and they do things over and over again, and it charges you a lot of money. But what I'll say about that is, I'm rambling now, aren't I? Sorry. I'm going down this whole tangent. The argument I'm trying to make there is we believe in paying artists, we believe in paying the music we work with, we believe in paying the voice talent. For the new tech, which I keep getting asked about AI in the office a bunch, I'm using it internally. I won't ship anything to players because they first think we're going to go for not paying the talent in our games and not paying the artists in our games, and we pay our artists a shit ton of money, so I want them to keep making great art. But we're very careful about that. As far as other tech goes, it's just looking at what makes the most sense for a person playing the game and what they want to do. I find there's very few things that exist today that I've seen on the periphery that I'm super excited about that are going to make a big impact to my population, but I play with it all. I wrote half my reviews this year on ChatGPT, and I am super fucking thankful. But I will also say that I am using AI to train an internal knowledge base on our game, because now that I've been there for a decade, I know a lot about our games. But I'm hiring people that have not been there for a decade, and they don't know a lot about our games. So what if I had an AI inside of Riot where you could type in a question about one of our characters or something like that, and at least all the data they want could showcase. I could tell them if we've ever made a music video with that character. I could tell them if players ever, got really upset about something we did within that. So that's the main way I'm using tech. Is not actually outbound, it's actually inbound, because we've scaled a lot over the years, and my teams have changed a lot over the years, and there's a few old people like me that still have the knowledge of the thing we did that was wrong, but I want to be able to surface it in an easy way, and so that's the way that I'm using things now.
Awesome, perfect. That's kind of wraps up the session here. Thanks so much, Dan, for taking us through the investing in music and art to build brand worlds, and thank you for Sony and Brand Innovators for having us here today.
Awesome. We do have just an extra 2 minutes if you guys, Dan, if you're open to taking a question or two.
Questions from the audience.
Yeah.
My favorite thing.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay, anyone have a question? We can take one or two if anyone's got anything to ask.
So I'm very interested in your basically like AI historian that you were just suggesting. How did you guys go about developing that?
It was actually the founder is extremely into Sam Altman and the jet. Like he's been asking me for years about this, and it's funny because in gaming, like AI before it was the cool thing we all talk about, it was like always in games because you have to create AI models to train the characters in the game. He was saying, I think we can save a ton of money if we use AI, and I was like, I think you're wrong. But that's where it started, and then it came to one of the teams that I manage peripherally from here. It doesn't really show me a lot of things, it just does a lot of things. Did something with AI, and then players hated it, and then we live in a pretty small world sometimes, so it got on all the socials, and then he came and found me, and he was like, why does this exist? And I'm like, you're the guy that said AI. And so we stopped, right? But ultimately, we saw how much players revolted. They were so upset. And all this thing did was like, it found crowd scenes and it smushed them together. And players were smart enough to realize those weren't crowds watching League of Legends. And they were like, Riot's cheaping out. Multi-billion-dollar company makes AI ad. This is why that Quantcast is going to get shit on a ton, by the way. It already did. Go ahead. Any more questions? I did hear that AI ad tested well, though. I did hear that.
Hey, nice to meet you. Real quick, want to say I work on Call of Duty, so thank you for the couple call-outs there. But I wanted to ask for your strategy with KDA. I know you said it was a K-pop group, but I know Madison Beer's in it as well. So is that part of their strategy of creating like an interglobal or intercultural kind of experience, not just for, you know, those that love K-pop, but, you know, kind of expanding into the American culture, musical culture as well? Or
100% on the market is a vanilla K-pop track. We kind of had the idea of doing a K-pop track because we had a couple people that were like super hyped into it, and then it was like, oh, well, we're not going to get Blackpink, and then we actually ended up getting part of Blackpink anyway. But it was like, well, how do you make this make sense? At the time, we didn't think K-pop was going to have like its moment. We thought, hey, there's a group of people that are super into it, and sitting in LA as you do probably as well, like sometimes here there's an influence that you think is everywhere, and it's like that's not in Ohio right now, right? And so we wanted to have some artists that we thought we could collaborate with. The other thing I kind of missed on was using artist socials have saved me a lot of targeting money because the artist is out there and it benefits the shit out of them to promote the music track that I paid for without me paying for them to promote the music track I paid for.
awesome, thank you, appreciate it.
All right, one more. Anyone else?
I'll make the last one fun. My name is Danielle Fox. I work with FlightQuest Esports. When are you going to give the people what they want and bring back Heartsteel?
You liked Heartsteel.
We
So,
love
so
Heartsteel.
funny story, because most of you don't know what the hell this is. This is the last virtual band we created and the one that I tried to kill. I got out, you know, there was no strategy behind it, and then they like wrote the strategy later, and I was like, this isn't a strategy, and they were like, yeah, we're spending a lot of money, we're doing it. So we did it. We're weird. This is a thing where bringing back what the people want is dangerous, right? Because like KDA, everybody's like, make the next KDA, which was our pop band, our K-pop band. We happened to hit it at the exact moment in time where K-pop was blowing up. We got literally 1 billion views on the video for free. I don't want to repeat that because I don't know that I'm getting them for free. And so for Heartsteel, have to think about the right moment where it makes sense within the game narrative. The cool thing about all of our bands is they actually exist in the game. So that's the part we're lucky with. The IP exists in the game, and I own the IP. I don't have to pay for it. So Heartsteel already exists in the game. There's a reason it could come back. But if I'm still at Riot, when they bring it back, this time I will kill it. I didn't have the power then. And I'm not sure I have the power now, but I have a lot of people looking out for it coming back to life. And they will tell me. Thank you all.